joining me for more on this is the author of the report, Ashleigh Fynn-Munda, and she's the Social Investment Associate at the Oppenheimer Generation Philanthropy. Thank you so much for joining us, Ashleigh. I think, firstly, well done on putting this report together. We need much more, of this content out there so we can understand just how far the country has gone and how bad or good maybe things look. Maybe let's start with the findings of your report. I know you have said that it's really a good thing that majority of the respondents in your report still had their businesses alive and were still operating. But what other interesting findings have you found?
Thank you so much for having me. In terms of our other findings, we did have at the time of March 2021, when the survey closed, 97% of small businesses reported that they were still operational. So we do acknowledge that this number might be a bit emphasized in that businesses who have closed might have not answered to our survey. So I'd just like to acknowledge that up front. But in terms of the interesting findings of the report, the SA Future Trust did not set out with any gender targets, but reached a significant number of women-owned businesses across the country. It also reached businesses in every single province, and our sectoral breakdown mirrors that of each sector's contribution to GDP.
And I'm interested, Ashleigh, in just knowing which of the sectors or which businesses and which sectors were heavily reliant, especially on the back of the recent GDP numbers showing, those industries that are doing rather well in the recent quarter. Which ones are more reliant on you?
Sure. So from our research, from the data, about 65% of our respondents indicated that they were in the service sector. And if we look at a more sort of subsector breakdown, we can see that a lot of community businesses, so those are those very small businesses that people often interact with on a day-to-day basis, but also those businesses that supply business services to other businesses, so your finance, your real estate, those type of businesses. Lastly, the tourism and hospitality sector as well. So those were where the majority of the loans were taken up.
And are we finding that businesses are still, in desperate need or as much need as we saw last year around this time?
Sure. So I think from both the survey that we launched and the one that we did again after the political unrest in July, we've seen that the demand for access to finance has been a consistent finding. People say business owners say they need either access to working capital or grants, and they're going to need this in the short term, the medium term, and the long term, in order if they're going to survive and then once they stabilize, grow their businesses.
The conversation around grants, Ashleigh, is an ongoing one, both for businesses and for individuals. We all are wondering whether this is sustainable. I'd like to know from you whether, businesses are asking for long-term grants. Has there been any sort of stipulation about how long the support's going to be needed and whether we're going to be seeing this particular situation next year?
So the SA Future Trust didn't supply grants, it supplied 5-year interest-free loans. Sorry, could you repeat the second half of that question for me?
Ashleigh, I just wanted to find out, how is this a long-term support? How much longer are the businesses indicating that they're going to be needing support for? And maybe you can go into the kinds of support that you're providing.
Sure. So like I said, currently we've only provided 5-year interest-free loans through the banks, but that entire process has been wound up. And in terms of how long they need the support, from the survey we sent out after the unrest in July, some said it was immediate, so where businesses had been directly impacted. Some said it would be in the next few months, so we would consider that the medium term. And some said over the next few years, anticipating that they really would need increased access to finance as the businesses develop and adapt and hopefully exit this pandemic.
Ashleigh, I'm aware that banks and other private sector companies have been invited, to play a major role in supporting businesses. But I think we can't ignore the role of government. Is there still demand or need for government to contribute? And if they are contributing, how much?
Well, I can't speak for government, but in terms of the SA Future Trust, it was a great collaboration with government. It enabled it to get its public benefit organization, and there is a hope that there is collaboration going forward.
And finally, I just want to know, with these funds that are set up, they specifically have the name COVID attached to them, and we know that it's for this particular period. But is there a future for funds like this beyond the pandemic, and other plans for this?
Sure. So the SA Future Trust was set up to address immediate need and provide this COVID relief, but it is in existence until 2040. And so it won't just be attached to the pandemic. It will adapt, it will change, and will hopefully provide other forms of support going forward.
I'm actually interested, as you said, that I wanted to wrap up, but I want to know what are the plans for the future? Do you have some sort of a summary, something that you can give us about what you're planning to do?
Sure. So in our research, we recognize that businesses such as women-owned businesses, youth-owned businesses, businesses that operate in the informal economy struggle to access traditional finance. And so in phase 2, which you can watch this space, we have partnered with 4 non-bank financial intermediaries to help support these businesses both through financial means as well as non-financial support so that they can grow and that their businesses can thrive.